Did you know that there is one peer-reviewed paper about using dream telepathy as an instrument for SETI? Now, SETI is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and using dream telepathy as an instrument of SETI would mean that we're using people's dreams and telepathic dreams instead of expensive and advanced radio telescopes. So instead of looking out and looking for messages that are maybe even hundreds of thousands of years old, we're using SETI by entanglement. And so that entanglement means a non-local connection between somewhere inside here and somewhere out there. And authors Michael Ibison and George Hathaway in 2011 published this paper, SETI by entanglement. It talks about the history of remote viewing programs, actually, in the out in the world, and it talks about extraterrestrial communication, and they talk about like Project Stargate. They talk about Pat Price. These are big name remote viewers that helped the U.S. government in some way, shape, or form know something that they shouldn't have known through ordinary sensor means, and they've done so by I'm going to get to it, right? So this is an example of a remote viewer drawing an accurate thing over in Soviet Russia or something like that. So basically this paper says, hey, why don't we use entanglement? Why don't we use telepathy and remote viewing? And they say particularly dream telepathy to have contact with extraterrestrial civilization. I think that's a great idea. I'm paying attention to this because on my website, D-SETI, that's a foundational hypothesis. This has been the work I've been doing for like 10 years, actually, and it's the work I'm carrying forward in my PhD program. And I really want to just show why this is relevant. And this will all come back to the UAP disclosure activities and the connection to 1990s alien abduction research. And so bear with me, I'm sick this week, so my nose is clogged, and I'm just going to do the best I can with this documentation of my inquiry this week. This is very sort of impromptu. I wasn't going to do one this week because I'm so sick, but I came across some exciting information for me, and the exciting information is literary proof that my theory is that in the 1990s alien abduction research is intimately connected with the UAP crash retrieval narratives now. And I finally found definitive proof for that, but I need to set up the context. And so that's why I'm talking about dream telepathy, because several years ago, I engaged in dream telepathy with extraterrestrials. They seemed to mark my body using geometric patterns. And I go, what is going on? And I find this one paper that says you can use geometry to authenticate dream telepathy with extraterrestrial civilizations. I go, oh my God, what if those ETs read this paper and are responding to it? And they have responded to it through me, because I invited them to. I don't know how many other people are skilled in dream work who are actively inviting extraterrestrial communications in their dreams, documenting it, and observing at a level that could even talk about this geometry, right? So they give an example of providing a solution to a problem as a means of authenticating the source of dream telepathy as non-human. And so if you can solve a problem with dream telepathy, a math problem that you can't normally solve, then you're getting help from something that's not you. So that's sort of proof. And so that's why I've been paying attention to this paper. This paper has stood out for me for two reasons, and it's authorship and the journal that it's in. It's been published in the Journal of Cosmology, which if you look on Wikipedia, it says it's a controversial journal. There's controversy around there. So if I'm saying, can I accept this would I make this the foundation of a dissertation? I don't know. I'd have to really look into the paper a lot more. I'd have to look into the journal a lot more. But Wikipedia says it's controversial. So I'm like, what's going on? And there's some acknowledgments at the end, and it says the authors are grateful to Kit Green and Harold Putoff for making some very useful suggestions. Now, Kit Green is important because he's done a lot of medical studies on abductees, and he was a CIA doctor. He was involved with Bigelow's National Institute for Discovery Science. And Hal Puthoff is central to UAP disclosure narratives. He is associated with like the To the Stars Academy. He's associated with Project Stargate. He's associated with the institute from which this paper came, the Institute for Advanced Studies at Austin. And George Hathaway, as we know from Jacques Vallée's 2017 Journals of Forbidden Science, says that George Hathaway basically receives requests from the Prince of Liechtenstein to evaluate different projects, scientific endeavors. And so Hathaway then talks to Prince of Liechtenstein as a sort of agent of his activities. So here we see the Institute for Advanced Studies as well is connected with Bigelow as well. So I say that here, this, and I know from talking to Michael Ibsen that this was part of a funding request that was failed. So at the point of writing my work, the most I could discern is that this proposal likely went in front of the Prince of Liechtenstein and Robert Bigelow, who were the funders of the early 1990s abduction research that was published in the booklet, Unusual Personal Experiences. So this is all essential to my arguments about alien abduction and dream telepathy. And I go, there's something in here. And so that's one document. So we need to go over to this. I wrote up my inquiry, a UAP crash retrieval narratives as an iteration of 1990s alien abduction research conspiracy. So I write this rather lengthy article that expresses why I'm saying these things and why I'm seeing the connection. And it feels the UAP crash retrievals nowadays feel connected to the 1990s abduction research, and it feels like there's the same epistemological themes, and I would call them fallacies in part. The monophasic bias is primarily the first one, but I actually don't see, when I read the literature that's coming out of the literature that's coming up, I go, I don't think there's a bias here. I think the bias is emerging in the contemporary culture's receiving of this information. So that's where I think the issue is coming. It's not the science being done by Bigelow and Liechtenstein and Hal Puthoff and the sort of remote viewing thing. It's the communication from that culture to our greater culture. There's something lost in translation that seems really relevant. But now that I finally have connected the dots, and I'm just showing you the connection of the dots. So this document I wrote, this blog post, has a lot of references, right? So people often look at all those references. These are the books and papers and articles and news posts I've read, and I've kept notes of them. And some are podcasts and stuff like that, but a lot of them are substantial literatures, and that's what I'm basing my arguments on. I'm reading skeptical perspectives and credulous perspectives, doing so in a way of integral theory. So I'm trying to integrate multiple perspectives here. And it's just like, I'm sharing this, and I'm sharing these documents of inquiry. I'm not trying to upset anyone who believes in some narrative in some way, but I'm saying this is the state of the literature, and I need to show that to you. So for me, it's a sort of sense of validation, because I produced this video and I like read through it. That's February 9th. And then here we come to this political article. And basically it says on March 8th, they say that the Pentagon has disclosed that the government once considered a program to recover and reverse engineer any captured alien spacecraft, an effort that never came to fruition but fueled conspiracy theories about a cover-up. So this event is the cause, I say, of the 2020s UAP crash retrieval narrative that we've been experiencing from like 2017 on, but like 2020 really shifted a lot. And then we had all those UFOs shot down and stuff like that. So the department, the office for this, the AARO, the All Anomalies Resolution Office, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, they go, okay, they looked, they go, there's no evidence for aliens. There's no evidence for these conspiracies, except there is a program that was proposed to the Department of Homeland Security in the 2010s, codenamed Kona Blue, to reverse engineer any recovered extraterrestrial craft. The effort was eventually rejected by Department of Homeland Security leaders for lacking merit and never actually recovered any otherworldly craft, according to this report. So it's critical to note that no extraterrestrial craft or bodies were ever collected. This material was only assumed to exist by Kona Blue advocates and anticipated contract performers. And I go, okay, so they're all going, oh, crash retrievals, crash in bodies, right? And it's going back to this report. And this report is, this proposal is what's going on. And that's what's causing the disclosure narrative, crash retrieval disclosure. So today I saw, okay, so this is their report. This is the AARO report. They go through all of this. Let's see. I don't particularly want to dive into this just because it's a lot of text, but I wanted to show you what's going. This is they talk about this. I look through this page by page because that's what you have to do. And I'm just showing it to you. So they basically go through and say there's really no evidence. Here's the things that it could have been. It's all really interesting. I think it's great. I think anyone who's interested in UFOs should read this because this at least will tell you what the state of the art is in terms of debunking. And then you can go from there and go, if you can go through those things and say it's not those things, then you have a case. And so that's a beautiful dialectic there, and I would recommend anyone interested in UFOs to do that. I'll keep going. So here is another document put out by AARO, and they talk about the history. This document is what I really wanted to talk about, which there was more information. There was like a proposal document type thing. That's where it has actual proof of the connections I'm talking about, which I got so excited I had to record. So this basically says the AARO office first learned of Kona Blue program from several interviews conducted as part of its historical review. Multiple interviewees identified Kona Blue as a Department of Homeland Security sensitive compartment established to protect the retrieval and exploitations of non-human biologics. AARO researched the information provided by interviewees and learned Kona Blue was a prospective special access program that had been proposed to DHS leadership but was never approved or formally established. Kona Blue never received any materials or funding, and there is no information beyond the proposal presentation marked with the Kona Blue name. We do have more information now, and that's what I'm sharing, the material is available now as like a PDF. I will first say, like, in looking through that document and knowing the authors of that a little bit through another document I'll talk about, I say that the characterization as a program to capture non-human biologics is that's only one part of it. And much like the 2017 New York Times article only focused on the UAPs and not the more transrational inquiry or paranormal inquiry, which I say is it looks to me to be scientific, to be honest, and I'll show you why. Because it uses scientific language and methods, and I think that's great. So here is the document, and here is right, the preliminary bigoted list of contractor personnel funded under the ATIP. So we've got the BAS, that's Bigelow Aerospace, and we're talking about Harry Reid and stuff like that, and that gives some information. And so this comes out as a sort of after the fact of the ATIP program, and we can go all the way up here. I just want to scan through this document a little bit with you, right? Kona Blue, isn't that nice? Project description. The project will investigate, identify, analyze sensitive information, advanced materials, and technologies to increase the basic knowledge of potential emerging or disruptive scientific or technical data. The project addresses basic, applied, and advanced research and technology demonstrations in order to identify and anticipate threats to U.S. homeland. A unified approach will be used for data collection, analysis, advanced technology acquisitions, applied technology theory demonstration, and consciousness studies. So consciousness studies is a key word here. So I'm just going to go through this a little bit so that you can see this. And so it's talking about Harry Reid here. It's around 2010s. They're talking about here with the history of the project, the ATIP. This document itself is being put forward 2000. So this is released from Homeland Security 2024. And then this proposal comes in. Let me see. It's proposing $12 million in the fiscal year in 2012, $25 million, $12 million 2012, $25 million is 2025, and $35 to $50 million in 2014. I like it. They're ambitious, and that's a lot of money, but that's not actually that much compared to what SETI does, right? So it's in that ballpark, and it's certainly not what compared to what the military might do, right? So they have 4 research centers. This is, so when I was scanning this document, I go, oh, 4 research center: Data Collection and Analysis Center, the Advanced Technology Center, the Consciousness Center, and the Technology Application Center. And then they start to go deeper. Yeah, experimental divisions, Consciousness Center, Integration Center. This is key too. And so I go, that feels really familiar. And the reason why it feels very familiar is because I was reading this book by Lukaski and Keller. Combe Keller works with Bigelow directly, and right. So this. I really do believe that this is the true account of the secret government UFO program. This is it. This is it. And all speculation aside, right? You could cut to the chase and read this document and go, okay, this is what happened, right? That's what happened. There's connections between Bigelow and Keene through the Consciousness Institute and stuff like that. Down here is the OSAP BAS organizational structure. And this for me is proof that the endeavors are sort of scientifically minded, as well as connects the consciousness kind of work with SETI by entanglement, right? So this is now saying, hey, this SETI by entanglement document was used, or perhaps used as part, because this is coming around 2011. This proposal is coming in around 2011. It involves these sorts of things, consciousness studies and stuff like that. And yeah, so that's where Data Collections Department, Data Analysis Department, Advanced Technology Department, Consciousness Department, Medical Department, Integrative Research Department, right? So this fingerprint of the BAS OSAP structure is deeply expressed in the Kona Blue proposal. And it's associated with Bigelow. I say this is proof. There's no more proof I need to really establish the connection that, hey, this Kona Blue program really came from the same source as the ATIP AIMSOG, or not AIMSOG, the other acronym, the BAS ASOP, AIMSOG. Hang on, it'll tell me right here in this document. The OSAP BAS organizational structure. So that OSAP BAS organizational structure, clearly written about by Combe Keller, written about by Bigelow, right? In response to funding from Prince of Liechtenstein and Bigelow, right? So that's coming through. We get this. By the way, Michael Ibsen is directly funded by Liechtenstein. So is Hathaway a lot of the time. Ibsen through advanced studies and Halpoduf, I'm not sure exactly the connection, but it's there. So that really connects this one program and go like, why? Because I often think like, how did this even happen? I have to understand how the only peer-reviewed paper about dream telepathy authenticates that dream telepathy with geometry, which is what the, which is what the book, which is what this book is all about. This guy, Field Guide to Anomalous Geometry, right? Like this is what he's saying. He goes, and so I just needed to share that because, right, we've gone through a whole UFO UAP disclosure experience, and if we look at the cause, and particularly the cause in the cause that we can get to, I'm going to get to reflections, right? So if we resolve all the UAP crash retrieval narrative, disclosure narrative, why that's coming up, it all comes back to Robert Bigelow's work with the government, or Robert Bigelow and Lichtenstein's funding of abduction research, and then considering crash retrieval programs that used much more that were much more about consciousness studies actually than crash retrievals, right? In reading the document, right, the SETI by Entanglement, they say you could find a crash UFO, or you could get new technology, or you could have communications. There's a lot there, as well as when you read through the ASAP Bass organizational structure document, which informed the Kona Blue, you'll see that there's huge sections dedicated to consciousness studies, and that it's really and huge sections dedicated to education and integration of these things. So it is not about UFOs in the way that people think. It's just not. And it's not even about abduction in the way that people think anymore. This has been an inquiry of these people, I suppose, and it's having a direct impact on cultural imaginations of what UFOs are and alien abductions and things like that. And it's something that we can actually track through literature. We can track through literature using disciplines of scholarly literature review and things like that. And that's what I'm trying to do here, because it's fascinating. And the stories are actually told in these documents. And there's no need for speculation, right? If we go, there's no over art, like if there's, I go, yeah, it's like, it makes sense. It's a small conspiracy of people, sure. Like it's a handful of people like that have moved some money in the Congress to really have this big impact that is captivating imagination, right? That's more reasonable to me than this whole notion of the government's in on it and actually retrieving craft and actually getting the technology and actually holding it back and holding this all of this thing. So it's a little bit of both and instead of either or in my evaluation here. So yeah, I'm just presenting this sort of literary proof that connects alien abduction epistemologies with contemporary UAP crash retrieval epistemologies. So we know that the same minds that approach the mysteries of alien abduction, approach the mysteries of UFOs, approach the mysteries of cattle mutilation and ghosts and things like that. These are the same minds that have formed the contemporary UAP disclosure narrative. This is what's happening, right? There's other things also happening, but when we're talking about UAP crash retrievals, when we're talking about disclosure and crash retrievals and re-engineering programs and stuff like that, we actually have to ground it in the documents presented to us. And the story that I get to when I read these documents goes, oh wow, actually Bigelow and Lichtenstein and Bigelow and Bass and Reed were doing really interesting work with really kind of paranormal or supernatural science that not a lot of people can understand. And they were doing so in a way that collected a lot of data that likely you could have access to if you ask them. And that seems like a thing to do, right? They in reading their documents, like, oh, they're really open to the science in their research. And so there's a sense of, for me, of once again, scales falling off of my eyes, that there right? There's levels of mythologization of the UFO, right? Oh, is there a thing out there? Oh, there's all these men in black things. And so when I realized that alien abduction wasn't what I imagined, and it could have been really caused by the actions of Bigelow and Lichtenstein and Hopkins, Jacobs, and Mack. Alien abduction in the way that I understood it as the UFO abduction syndrome or whatever. Those scales fell off of my eyes and I realized, oh, there's an actual contact phenomena happening. And then I had a different layer of mythologization where it's like, oh, these guys are evil cabal or disinformation, or there's something wrong here, or they're not doing science or something like that. And then actually looking into this, I say, yeah, this looks solid. I mean, it involves things like remote viewing and paranormal things, and I've had experiences with those, and I don't see any extraordinary promises. I see them applying methods that have been tested. I see them relying upon academic and scientific expertise. I don't see claims of alien bodies and re-engineering in the way that the media is putting out right now that it is, right? Like I say that the characterization of the Kona Blue program as the government's UFO retrieval and alien body thing is not a kind characterization of this program in these documents. It's not all that they were doing. And there's a much greater context that really does explain and make more rational why they would be doing these things. So I just needed to say that, and I wanted to share this. And thank you for being on this journey with me of looking into disclosure. All right. With that, may you dream well.